to the Who Are You to Lead Anyway podcast. This is the place where we master the skills we need to navigate leadership and life with more ease and less angst. This is episode 117, and I'm so glad that you are here. I look forward to having these conversations with you so much each week. Now, today, we're going to dive into a theme that's been on my mind a lot recently, which is integrity, and not just following through on commitments to others, but honoring commitments to ourselves. And let me just say that the process has been both revealing and uncomfortable. So today I wanted to share my journey with you because I think that there are so many of us that wrestle with the balance between keeping our word and staying true to ourselves. But before we dive in, I have a question for you. I want to ask you something. When was the last time that you evaluated all of the things that you have said yes to? Have you ever asked yourself if those commitments align with who you are right now in this moment? This is exactly where I found myself a few weeks ago, realizing some of my commitments, one that I felt so aligned with before, were now creating a tension within me. So, what I want to do today is I want to walk you through how I navigated the discomfort of saying no in service of my own alignment and my own goals, and what that process has taught me about true integrity. So, what I want to do is I'm going to take you back into a little bit of a personal story. So, a few weeks ago, I hit a point where I just had to press pause and take a long, hard look at everything that I had committed to. Now, I am someone, if you know me, you know this about me, but I am someone who gets a lot of stuff done. I have a lot of energy for a lot of things, especially the things that I love to do. And I am someone who's always prided myself on getting stuff done, following through, on being a person of integrity who does exactly what she says she'll do. But But as I reflected on a couple of these commitments, I realized that they just didn't feel right anymore. These were things that had felt so meaningful at one time, but no longer fit with where I am in my business or the goals that I'm pursuing right now. And I got to tell you, it was really, really uncomfortable to admit to myself. So I found myself asking some big questions. What are my options here? Okay, that's not a big question. But what am I trying to avoid by continuing? That one was a tough one because I realized that a lot of the discomfort that I had was tied to some deep rooted judgments that I had about myself, about what it would mean to back out of a commitment, about what people would think, but people would say, all of that. And of course, I started to notice the voices of my inner critic or my saboteurs. You've heard me use both of those terms interchangeably. So, to give you an example of what it was like in my mind, the pleaser in me felt compelled to fulfill the commitment. Okay. The stickler was busy pointing out every detail that I had fallen short on if I wasn't fully invested. And they were loud, filling me with so many judgments like, you're letting people down, you're unreliable, you're not good enough to handle it at all. Like everybody else would be able to do it, but you can't do it. Now, all of these feelings, the thoughts created anxiety, guilt, the sense of inadequacy. They were so strong, but I made a conscious choice to lean into the discomfort and to sit with those feelings and to go deeper with myself rather than pushing through. I knew that if I kept going, if I kept doing the things, that I would be even more out of alignment with my own truth. And that realization led me to take a different approach. It was time for me to turn to my inner sage, to break through the saboteurs and align myself again with myself. So I called on my inner sage powers, which I've learned through positive intelligence. Now, I have mentioned this work, positive intelligence with Shirzad Shamin. I've mentioned it many, many times on the podcast. I've done episodes on each of the saboteurs that he works with and that I've been working with my clients. And so, if you're wanting more insight, you can search for the 12 Days of Christmas. Last year in December, I that's when I did that body of work. So, back to these commitments that I had in front of me. First things first is I started with empathy. And the reason why I start with empathy is because that is the thing that in my work with myself, in my work with my clients, that is the thing that is so easy to give other people and so hard to give for oneself. So I started with empathy for myself and for those involved in my commitments. I took a step back to genuinely understand why I felt so conflicted. And I had to give myself permission to feel uncomfortable with any thoughts and any feelings and any emotions and any judgments or disappointments that the other parties may have. And I decided to allow them to have their feelings, their judgments, their disappointments, or their thoughts. I had to remind myself that we all evolve and change. And so can our commitments. So can our commitments. Then I use the sage power of exploration. I asked myself if I was just a fascinated anthropologist, what are the facts? What's really happening beyond my judgments and anxieties? I wanted to just kind of put them on the side, right? What else was really happening? And I began to separate my feelings from the reality of the situation. And that in doing so helped me gain some clarity around the situation. What were the facts? Things have changed, and that's okay. That's not a problem. Then I tapped into the innovation power, which is brainstorming all the different actions I could take. What were the options I did have? What could I do differently? And that exploration opened up paths that I hadn't seen before. Now, one of the most so I just want to stop here for a moment because as I'm saying this to you, what I want to point out is what I was it's less important about what the options were that I worked through, et cetera, like the details of all of that, but it's more important how I worked through the process. That's what I'm wanting to share with you today. Okay, so we've covered empathy, we've covered exploration, we've covered innovate. The next one of the most powerful exercises that I believe out of all of this work was calling on my navigate power. And that is asking the version of myself. So, what wisdom would my 90-year-old self share with me a few weeks ago? And imagining that wise future version of myself, I could see that she would tell me to trust in my alignment, to make choices that honored my growth. So she told me integrity is staying true to myself, even when it's uncomfortable, and that it was not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. And then finally, I moved into the activate power, which is all about creating a clear plan. So, what were the steps that I needed to take? Who did I need to talk to? And how would I communicate my decision with honesty and respect for myself and for them? And taking action felt so much more aligned because it was grounded in clarity, not obligation. I've said this before, like how you feel about something is a key to everything. So for me, once I arrived at this space and place, I even even though it was uncomfortable, I spoke to the people I needed to speak to who were very kind, who were very understanding, which is the outcome that I think we always hope for, but our brains tell us isn't available to us. Now, on the other side of this, which is where I am at this moment, there was so much relief, which was better than keeping my commitment and being stressed out, being resentful about it, and pushing through that. So now what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the benefits of realignment because here's the thing. What did Cynthia gain by facing this discomfort? So instead of spending the week doing corporate slides, traveling, canceling client sessions, and ultimately feeling stretched too thin, I experienced something so different. And it filled me up in such a way that I really wanted to speak to you about it because I think we don't always think about our decisions. So, what happened instead of the thing that I agreed to do? Well, the first thing is I was able to dive into the Modern Guide to Human Design, which is something I talked about on last week's podcast. It was a resource that deepened my knowledge and reignited a passion for learning something new much more deeply. I was able to participate in a 3-day mini series on archetypes, which I've also done an episode on that too. So if there's an interest there. Now, here's what you might not expect. This 3-day mini series took place at 4 a.m. my time, but I was able to attend. So because I was able to attend, I even won a one-on-one session with the founder of the Institute, which was an incredible gift that wouldn't have been possible if I'd been traveling. I also spent quality time with my clients. I had lunch with my husband on multiple days. That hasn't happened in our entire marriage. And I was able to take long walks in nature at a time of year when I really love that because I was able to witness the fall leaves falling. I have videos of that. I had deep conversations with others, with friends, and I was able to soak up the simple, joyful experiences of life. And that is really, really worth something. So, this brings me to my biggest lesson learned, which is the true cost of yes. Because the biggest takeaway for me was realizing that when we say yes to something out of obligation or habit or expectation, we are often saying no to the things that truly nourish us. Now, this realignment has shown me that integrity isn't about sticking with something just because I made a commitment once at all. It is about staying true to myself and my values, even as they evolve. So, I have a call to action for you, which is something called the Yes Audit. So, while all I can do is extend invitations, I would love so much for you to even consider trying something new this week. I want to invite you to do a quick Yes Audit where you take stock of everything that you've said yes to recently and ask yourself if each of those commitments still resonates with who you are today. Is there something that doesn't feel aligned? If so, remember it's okay to make a different decision or back out of something if it no longer serves you or the person that you're becoming or the goals that you have for yourself. Now, if you're unsure, I invite you to start journaling or talking to a trusted friend or a loved one about it, like whatever way works for you. The point is to get curious and ask yourself, what are the options you have? What are you trying to avoid? And ask what wisdom your future self might share. This is the best way to connect with your intuition, which is why I love this piece of it so much. Now, while clarity doesn't always come instantly, reflecting on these questions can help. And I will say that when you connect with your intuition, whatever your intuition says immediately is the answer for you, is the right answer for you. If there's long justifications and explanations, that's just your brain. So, to make this even easier, because I care for you so much, like I am so committed to this, I have created a fun yes audit guide. And it's going to be linked in the show notes for you. It's got prompts, it's got space to reflect on your commitments. It asks simple but powerful questions like, does this commitment still light me up? What am I gaining by letting it go? This is not just about saying no at all. It's about making space for a more aligned, intentional yes. It's also designed to build awareness, which is the most incredible gift you can ever give yourself for yourself, in the sense that I offer you a few typical feelings that might come up. So, are you excited? Are you neutral? Are you overwhelmed? Are you drained? Are you anxious? Are you bored? Right? These are just kind of typical feelings that might come up so that you can gain awareness to what you feel for each of your commitments. And I also want to invite you, like, feel free to share this episode, the resource, have a conversation with others that you lead or that you mentor that you think might also benefit, because I'm sure that they would be so appreciative. And I surely will, that's for sure. So, with that said, I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining me as I explored what it really means to stay in integrity with myself and brought you along for the journey. And I want you to invite you to remember something. Honoring your alignment isn't easy, but it is deeply rewarding because it feels so good and so right in your body. Now, I want to leave you with this thought. Each time we choose integrity to ourselves, we step closer to the life we truly want, which is your birthright. The life that you want is your birthright. The life that you feel excited by is your birthright. The things that light you up are your birthright. The stress, the pressure, the striving, the performing, all of that, I mean, you can have that if you want. You don't need that. That's all optional. And that's an episode for another day. So, if today's episode spoke to you, let me know. I would so love to hear how you're navigating your own realignments. And last but not least, you are not alone on this path. I am here cheering you on as you choose your commitments that serve you best. And I will see you back here next Tuesday. And in the meantime, have a great week. Take care. Hey, leader. Thanks for tuning in to the Who Are You to Lead Anyway podcast. I hope today's episode inspired you to embrace your authentic leadership journey. I want to invite you to join my mailing list at www.cynthiajamiesoncoach.ca and claim your copy of Your Inner Compass, a guide to charting your course to authenticity. This guide will help you understand what truly matters most to you. My vision is to empower individuals to live and lead lives in harmony with their core values, become catalysts for positive change, and navigate transitions, all while fostering connection and belonging in the world. Lastly, your feedback shapes this show, so I would be honored if you would subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you so much for being a part of this community dedicated to authentic leadership. Together, let's make a meaningful difference in this world.